So, hi everybody.
Hi.
So, anything creative starts with a question. So, how many questions do you ask every day? It's important. Just think, we're on the Great Wall. I've never been here before in my life. It's an astounding experience. How many generations have passed since the wall started? Maybe about 100. If we could hold hands through time and space, that's just about the number of people who are here today. Think of that. So I'm curious. I'm always asking questions. My mother, when I was a child, said, even from the minute I could talk, I was asking too many questions. So one of my questions was, how many rocks are in the Great Wall? I looked all over the internet, and it said, over 1 trillion. Just think, that's more than the number of people alive today. So I wonder, is it more than all the people who've ever lived? But I couldn't find that on the internet. Anyway, so all creativity begins with a question. How did the Great Wall begin? With a question, an idea, and a rock. You need the rock. So what was the question? It was how to keep all the awful enemies out. And what was the idea? Somebody said, hey, maybe we can build a really long wall high enough that they can't break through. Now, probably some people said, that's a crazy idea. It'll never work. You're nuts. But other people must have said, that's a fantastic idea. Let's do it. Which one would you be? So, besides glass, I teach creativity and drawing, and I meet so many people who are 100% sure they can't draw and they're not creative. Which one are you? Okay. But I found along the way, there's basic foundation rocks you can use. Anybody can use those and be successful at building a wall or drawing. Do you like to draw? Do you hate to draw? Do you want to change? So all you need to do is look at things in a different way and you can draw. So let me see here. Let's try something. Look at your hand. Well, probably the first thing you said to yourself was hand, the word, right? When you think in words, you think in symbols. Rather like the little symbol on Ray's shirt, the little hand like that. People who think they can't draw are usually trying to draw those little symbols. Those little symbols are shortcuts for the real thing. But the little symbol for hand doesn't really look like a real hand. So you have to let the symbols go. Let's try something different. Look at your hand again. This time, look at the edges around your fingers. Are the fingers all perfectly straight? Is the edge around each finger same or different? Probably a little wiggly. Now look at the empty space between the fingers. This empty space is called negative space, and it's incredibly useful because it has no name. You can't come up with any little stereotype symbols. You could probably draw your hand without even looking at it because you have that little symbol. But if I say, okay, draw this empty space, this negative space between your thumb and your index finger, you couldn't draw it unless you actually looked at it because you have no symbol for it. Then, if you're drawing and you want to make your hand in proportion, all drawing is comparing one thing to the other. So, is the width of your palm the same as the length? Measure the length of your palm. Then compare that length to your fingers. Are any of your fingers the same length as your palm? So if you're drawing, you may be coming along with a pretty nice drawing at this point. You followed the edges, you followed good negative space, proportion. How about angles? Let's see. Maybe if you're a mathematician, you like to think in degrees, but if you don't like math, you could think of a clock. So looking at your thumb, what time is it? Is it 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock? That helps you visualize what's really happening in front of you. Now we'll take a look at light and shadow. Can you see light and shadow easily? Do you see any light and shadow in your hand? Some people, depending where you're sitting, might see it. Generally, it's kind of hard to see. But Leonardo da Vinci had this absolutely fantastic secret tool for seeing light and shadow. Do you want to know what it is? Well, ancient artists had all these wonderful secret tools, things like these things, that they didn't tell anybody. They just passed the secrets through the ages from artist to artist to help them draw better. And what's mysterious, I went to art school and I never learned any of those secrets. I learned them from another artist. Don't know why art school doesn't teach it. Okay, anyway, it's a secret tool, and I really shouldn't tell, but we're in a special place, so I'm going to show you. It's this. So Da Vinci used to use red stained glass. He used it as a filter to help heighten the contrast. So look at my face. Can you see, besides all the bushy hair, can you see the light and shadow? How about now? About all the light and shadow on your face is just popping out dramatically. I want to draw you. Okay, so once you've got the light and shadow, you're coming along pretty well. If you can see it, you can draw it. So one hard thing about drawing is it's full of paradox and contradiction. Often you look at something, but you can't believe what you're seeing. You fall back on the symbols. You think you're seeing the symbol when it's totally different than that. So one of the surprising things I discovered along the way is that there are 3 types of approaches. I met so many people, and suddenly they make this breakthrough in drawing because they discovered they were a line person, not a light and shadow person, or a negative space person, not a line person. So if you think you can't draw, it's usually because you're taking the wrong approach. You have to find the way that works for you. It just starts with a pencil and fresh eyes. Scroll bearer, please. Since we couldn't use computers here, and we're in this ancient place, I thought, how would people make presentations 1,000 years ago? Of course, the scroll bearer. So here's some before and after examples. These students were sure they couldn't draw. I don't know if you can see. Later you can look up close. This man, he did this charming little drawing, but he was really ashamed of his drawing ability. He came to me for help. A few days later, he made a huge improvement. And looking at his drawing, you can see he's a line person. It's all really clear, beautiful line. He really did a lot of nice detail. But this woman, she tried drawing in lines. She was getting so frustrated, she threw her drawing in the trash and was about to give up. But I showed her Da Vinci's secret tool, and she realized she's a light and shadow person. So a few days later, she went up almost to professional level. She was so excited, she told her husband, "You have to take this workshop. It'll change your life." So he took it. Guess what happened? He was president of a famous conservative company. He realized he didn't want to be president of a conservative company. He wanted a creative job. So he quit his job. Now he's CEO of this incredibly creative company, and he's so happy. He said, "That workshop's dangerous." See, I said before, drawing might change your life. So this man, took him 2 years to get enough courage to take my workshop. He said it was scarier than rock climbing or bungee jumping. If you look up close, he looks pretty worried there. And he wasn't bad with lines, but he did much, much better with light and shadow. Now he has confidence. He had 2 little kids who were always asking him to draw. Daddy, draw me an elephant, draw me a car. And he was a miserable failure. But now, he was ashamed in front of his kids. But now they draw together, and they're so happy. So this man, he was a retired executive of a big company, always in a suit, very, elegant fellow. So he retired and didn't have much to do, so his wife gave him my workshop as a gift, because he was just sitting around the house, and she was frankly tired of it. Secret, right? Anyway, after a few days, he made this amazing progress. Even I was surprised. Like, he went up to professional level. So, to make a long story short, he ended up going to art school. At age 62, instead of wearing suit and necktie all the time, he was in his jeans with the 20-year-old kids. Now he's so cool. And now he has a thriving career as an artist, much to his amazement. He said he has to live to be 100. There's not enough time to do everything he wants to do. Okay, thank you, scroll bearer. So many people think that unless you're born with innate talent, there's no hope. But it's not true. Anybody can draw. You just haven't figured out, are you a line person, a light and shadow person, or a negative space person? That's all you have to find out. But then again, you might not be a two-dimensional person at all. You might be a 3D person. Then what? Okay, let's do a little test. So, see this rock again, friendly rock. I want you to imagine it. Turn it around in your mind's eye. Can you see it from the top, from the bottom, from the side? Can you turn it around easily? 3D thinkers can do that so simply, but 2D thinkers have a really hard time with that. But whatever type of person you are, always look with fresh eyes, even at this rock, okay? So since I'm talking about rocks, I'll end with a great rock story. Once I was high up in the mountains teaching a group of teachers, and let's see, there was one guy nicknamed the Bear. He hadn't drawn in his whole life, and he was drawing his hand, holding the grubby little rock he picked up while he was hiking, and suddenly he said in awe, "Oh, this rock is so beautiful. Maybe when I get home, my wife with all her wrinkles will also be beautiful." When you draw, you learn to see with new eyes. Things look differently. So the bear went home and drew his wife, including all her wrinkles, and she was so beautiful. Thank you.